going to call, I will start again. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the Facilities Committee meeting for the Keystone Central School Board of Directors to order. And we have today about, according to our agenda, 5 items that we need to discuss and come up with some ideas on how we want to handle them. First one on the agenda is the last couple months ago, I think it was, and we met with the folks here from Katy Drive and Homestead Estates. And we first had met with them back, I think, last spring about the water runoff and the situation there behind the condos back in the back part of the Homestead Estates area. And so in the meantime, we had directed Rob and the facilities department to do a survey of the area, which they completed. And so I guess they found out that, you know, we were within the boundaries and so on that we were, you know, supposed to be in. And so I think in the meantime, since then, I think we discussed this last month. In the meantime, we asked Rob and Dr. Martin to meet with you folks, which I believe they did recently, and talked about the results of the survey and see where we want to go from here. So if you guys want to, we can turn it over to you, and you can you know, ask whatever questions or whatever would like to present to us.
This microphone should work.
Either one will be on. So
Does that work?
Whichever one you want to,
Does that work?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's fine.
okay. Yes,
Could you introduce yourself? Pat
Yeah.
is taking notes.
oh, okay. My name is Dave Urschel. I'm the president of the Katy Drive Homeowners Association. With me is Suzanne Worrell. She is just a resident there, homeowner, and is here just as a second person to hear that we both hear the same thing. At the last meeting with Dr. Martin, the facilities manager,
Mr. Pasella.
and myself, and we also had another person here from the Homestead Estates Homeowners Association. We showed a video of the water runoff there, and you know, discussed some things. Dr. Martin said at that point that she was going to take it to the school board and talk it over with them, and at this meeting possibly give us an idea of, you know, what the situation was deemed appropriate for action, if any, by the school board, and, you know, would tell us further at this meeting what those results were. So that's why we're here today.
Okay, well, we really haven't had a chance as a full board to discuss that because it hasn't gotten to the committee yet. Because this is actually the first time we've met since, I believe since Dr. Martin and Mr. Pasella met with you folks.
No, okay.
So really this, you know, this is really the first time we had a chance to even discuss where we.
Okay, well then, based on that, a couple of things. There was conversation at the last meeting about whether or not the construction of the townhomes may have interfered with the runoff situation that was initially done by the school district. I bought the third condo of the 6 that are there and moved into it basically the day it was completed. I had asked them to build it for me, and was waiting for it, for completion. And I spent probably pretty close to the first year. There was only 3 condos of the 6 built. So my first winter, I had basically a unfinished wall on the south side. And of course, my heating was way up and everything, but I noticed immediately that I moved in September, and I noticed immediately that the water situation in the backyard was very bad. And I contacted Chapel and Eldred, who were the people that constructed the condos, and told them about my concerns. I had water up close to 3 to 4 inches of coming in the first floor of my condo. That spring, based on my complaints, they did do some remediation in the backyard. They
Excuse me, who did the remediation? The contractor?
Well, yeah, the contractor, if I remember correctly, it was done by a Toner Construction Excavating. They brought them in. But as I said, the 3 newer condos were not constructed at that time. When I did my closing, I got a plot plan of what the construction was supposed to be. And the construction on the plot plan that I got when there was only 3 condos built shows that 6th condo was supposed to be very close to the line. And the line shown on this plot plan that I got, again, before those 3 final condos were constructed, very closely mirrors the actual survey that was done. And I'm not an engineer. I don't have the actual scale on this, but it shows that 6th condo is very close to that line, which it is now. It's probably within 10 feet of the line. But the plot plan that I have was done by Hawbaker Engineering out of State College. And there is a line on there, which I would assume indicates a setback variance. And the final condo is built right to that line on here, which indicates that, the setback, although it looks close to the Keystone Central line, is apparently done according to the engineering initial thing. But, the fact that those 3 condos weren't built, there was plenty of room for those people that came in with the stone to do the holding pond there, for the extra water or anything, had plenty of room to get in there without getting on the Keystone Central property. I think there was an indication that, well, maybe when we did that holding pond in the back, we messed up the thing. After I thought about it, I don't think that's what happened, because as I said, that was done when those 3 condos were not built. And, if you want to copy this, you can see that there's plenty of room to get in behind the initial ones and build that holding pond without, getting on any of the Keystone Central property. At the time, we also gave Dr. Martin a copy of a video that our next door neighbor had taken during a rainstorm. And you can see the water coming out of the Keystone Central property and right on to us. And basically there's a pond back there right behind our condos. And this is, of course, this is after the additional 3 were built and after what was done in the back to kind of remediate whatever we could. But really in a large rainstorm, it just overwhelms the whole thing. And we have constantly got water in the backyards, and during I'll say a significant rainstorm, we've got pretty close to a lake. And, you know, since I've lived there, I don't think we've had a 5, 6, 7, 8-inch rain there at any time. If we do, well, the last condo, which is closest to the Keystone Central line in the back, they have said that they have had water in the first floor of their condo during significant rainstorms. And they are the worst one. Of course, when you get back there and look at the elevations, you can see that the elevation is just such that, of course, water runs downhill and it comes off of the French drain, which was constructed by Keystone Central, comes right out of that French drain and right downhill and right to that condo. And we, as an association, number one, there's 6 homeowners here. We don't have the money to do anything. Number two, we don't have the room because, you know, that condo is within about 10 feet of the Keystone Central property. And for us to construct any type of a swale, unfortunately, again, I'm not an engineer, but I don't know how to make water run uphill. And the rest of the swale is reasonable if it doesn't overwhelm it right here where it first comes out. And unfortunately, what we think needs to be done, there's a swale in the back and then it comes out the other side and onto the cul-de-sac at the end of Homestead Drive and across the drive and ultimately to the creek. And I think that would work if that swale was extended right back to that area where the pipe comes out from the Keystone Central French drain. And, you know, the particular video that we had clearly shows that it was taken during a hard rainstorm, and you can see basically a 4-foot wide river beside the French drain pouring right toward our properties.
Have you, where is the contractor in all this? I mean, have you contacted, because it sounds to
No,
me like what you just said was that they had space to put a holding pond or whatever in there when there was still 3 condos, and they didn't do that, which probably
Yeah,
should.
they did. They, when I say a holding pond, what it basically was, they excavated a place in there, I don't know, I was working at the time, I'm retired now, but I was working at that time. They put multiple truckloads of stone in there and, you know, built the grass over top of it, reseeded it and everything. So when I say a holding pond, it's not like an open pond.
Right.
It's just basically a large excavation there with stone and then soil and grass over top of it to take a minimum. We could, with what was done, we could easily handle the water that would come off our roofs and, you know, rain on our property, but it's being overwhelmed by the stuff off of Keystone Central property.
Do you have copies on your homeowner association? Have any copies of the developers like stormwater management plans? They should be filed with the county, with the township. It should be, whoever the developer should have been responsible for stormwater.
When we first discussed this, I went up to the conservation district and specifically asked them if everything was done according to the provisions of the conservation district. I think that's the correct place to do this. Although I did not ask and they did not give me a copy of it. When I was there the first day, they said, well, we'll have to look into that, stop back in a day or two and, we'll have that information for me. I did speak with Wade Jadun. I had Wade Jadun down here himself to look at this. Again, I stopped back a couple of days later and they assured me that everything that the developer did was according to the provisions and everything was correctly filed with the Conservation District.
Did they give you a copy of that?
No,
And at that same time frame, I'm sorry. Yeah, at the same time frame that Wade was down and spoke with them, they also sent a representative from the Conservation District to us. And we, they sent a representative to us. They looked over our permit and said we were within the confines of everything that we were supposed to have done. So, and then we went kind of round and round on this thing and we've listened to what the homeowners association, we've seen the videos, we went through that. And I believe after the last time I had spoke with Dr. Martin on this, after we left the meeting, it really comes down to, at this point, it's a three-prong approach. I think it involves the township, the homeowners, and the school. I reached out to the engineers that originally did some of our work to try and get a cost of what it would be to look into remediating all the stormwater, but it's not going to be just the school district. It would be all three entities. Like, it's not fair to ask the taxpayers for the entire district to take care of one issue solely. It would have to be a three-pronged approach. I believe it would have to involve the township, the homeowner association, and the school district. And that's if the board wants to entertain that, because we've already spent probably in the millions of dollars doing stormwater management over there. We've got a permit. We went through the process. We opened and closed the NIPD's permit, and we met all the guidelines. So although we want to be great neighbors, I feel for everybody. I know it's a difficult situation at this point. I think that's really where we have to sit down as the board and decide, do we want to entertain the cost? Anytime I involve an engineer, it's a lot of money, and do we want to entertain that entire cost? We want to try and work with the other two entities on that and decide really where we want to go with that.
What was the results of the survey? We just spent what, $7,000 on it?
It shows that the property is built 9.2 feet off of the property line, which of a 10-foot setback. So it's about 8 inches over the setback. It shows where the property line is. We are sheet flowing water on our property. We're not point discharging at the property line or anything like that, where would be a problem. We're back 60 feet, 40 feet from the line where the pipe comes out. Everything else is sheet flowing, and a lot of the water that we're getting is sheet flowing from the upper side of Mill Hall and comes across that field in front of my office and continues its rest of the way down through. So I think that really is what we have to decide as the board, what our next step would be. We've listened and we understand that we're not. I see the water going down, and we know that it's there, and I see the water that comes across in front of my office. It's the same water that goes the rest of the way down. It just picks up more as we go. So kind of where we're at. I think that our next step would be we regroup as this and speak with Dr. Martin and see if where we want to go.
I just think
you indicate that you're 60 feet back, and I agree that that's probably about what it is, but it's all downhill right to our properties.
Yeah, but it's sheet flowing, and yeah. I'm not going to get into an argument back and forth. We had the Conservation District down. They looked at it. We're not in a violation. We're within our permit guidelines. We did everything that we were supposed to with our NIPD's permit. We went the whole way through the process. So from that standpoint, we could go back and forth on that all day long. We know there's water comes out there. It's going to flow downhill, but we can't I can't go back in and do anything without opening a new permit. And when I open that new permit, we know what cost implications are to the district because we've opened NIPD's permits before and it's very expensive. It doesn't, that's the reason we didn't do a parking lot down below, because within the confines of that permit, it just got cost prohibitive to even put that lot in down there. So we're well aware where we could get in once we reopen that kind of a permit. So that's why I say we would have to share in the cost with everybody.
If I could just add to that, following the meeting with the homeowners association, I did have a chance to talk with Steve Cicelli, who's a Baldy Township supervisor. And it was really pretty apparent that any solution, I don't think anybody denies that there's water running there and that on heavy rains, it's absolutely an issue for the homeowners. The question becomes the solution that needs to be found. Again, as Rob said, I'll reiterate, the homeowners, actually even probably both homeowners associations, their Homestead and Katy Drive, as well as the township and the school district. And the first step would be, what is the solution? So we would have to hire an engineer, we being who? The district alone, a combination, hire an engineer to find a plan that would work to get the water effectively to the Bald Eagle Creek. And I think everybody's aware of the issues. You can't just channel water to the creek. So Rob, I had asked you to seek out just an estimated cost for an engineer to engineer a plan. Were you able to get any estimated costs back yet?
I have not. I did reach out to HRG, waiting for them to actually get back to me. I know they're extremely busy. I've reached out 2 or 3 times, so I'll attempt again and see where we get.
So that's where Mr. Cicelli was waiting on us to get the costs back so that we kind of knew how much money we were talking about. And then we would have an estimate for the board, the supervisors, and for the homeowners associations to decide, is that something that's feasible to take on and look at finding a plan. So that's the update I have for the homeowners group since we last met.
Chair
No.
Jeff, thank you. I am very concerned about this project. We all are. And I know that no one's going to kick this down. We're not kicking the can here. Okay. This board doesn't do that. So rest assured about that, please, first. I do have an idea, and I feel that should be best if it would happen in executive session, not to hide any information from anyone, but I don't want to bring up this topic in the public until the board, or maybe find out from the solicitor if it should be discussed in executive session. So that's as far as I can go right now. But if the solicitor feels that it should not be discussed in executive session, then I would more than happy say it in a public format. But right now, I don't know. But I will share my idea at the right time, in the correct way.
Well,
And I'm
Elizabeth,
not
if it's
saying
if
it's
it's not a
the-
legal issue,
Yeah,
if it's not a personnel issue,
Or-
it can be talked about in public.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
All
there's
right.
there's nothing
Okay.
legal that someone's gonna be arrested, sued, or criminal actions. And if it's nothing personnel where someone's gonna get fired
No.
or hired or,
No.
yeah, you're
I,
good.
okay, all right. This is the concept. And when I say concept, I mean, it's so raw. Okay, and I haven't shared this with anybody, but it's raw. It may not go anywhere. Okay, so let's just accept that, please. I think it might be a time to bring, when we have this meeting with all the key people, to also invite the Clinton County Conservation District, and this is why. If the water stays on Keystone Central School District property, there's really only a couple of ways that I personally know of, and I am not an expert. The County Conservation District is the expert, and they have the experts, is to take up some of that baseball field and build a restoration wetland bioswale like they did at the high school. And that involves the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and Ducks Unlimited. They have grant money to do that. And like I said, this concept is so raw that it has no weight right now. Okay? It's just an option that might go somewhere. Because with the rainwater situation, I don't see how trying to channel it to Bald Eagle Creek is really an option, because I think Wade Judon at the County Conservation District said that once you connect your water drainage directly to the creek, I believe it might then be reclassified as a stream. And that is a different, very different than keeping the water close to where it comes to and not reaching the creek. But I am not the expert, okay? So I'm just putting this out there. If there's any movement,
Well, I think that'll go back to some of what we're working with the engineers. They're gonna come, if we agree that we're gonna end up hiring an engineering firm to do this, they will come back and give us options and some different things with that. So I think that, that really is where it was at. And I think that that's what kind of Dr. Martin kind of summed it up. And what she just said was kind of what I was trying to tell you all. But I think
Well,
that's kind of the next step.
well,
And-
if I can just add one more thing, Chair Jeff.
quickly.
Thank you. If you might want to consider talking to Wade Judon first, because when they did the high school, I believe that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Ducks Unlimited incurred all those costs. But that was after an understanding was already accepted. So maybe talk to Wade and see before the school district spends any money. I don't know, but I'm done. But thank you for that opportunity to comment.
Can I promote?
And
Yeah.
as, from our end, we really don't care how the school district keeps the water off of our property. My idea, that would be an excellent idea as far as I'm concerned. Of course, I'm sure to do that, to increase that wetlands in there behind the football field, there is a small one there now. Unfortunately, the gentleman that was here with me before, who is with the Homestead Homeowners Association, has been a resident there much longer than I have. And he tells me that when the school district originally, and he has pictures of that too, when they developed the softball field back there, and you can see it, it actually artificially built up about 2 or 3 feet above our property. And legally, again, you got 2 or 3 feet, and there's a swale then right between right on the line of Keystone Central and our property. And that drain there takes the water around to the side and over and basically down to Bald Eagle Creek. That's a minor problem compared to what comes out of that French drain in that back area and right across there. If that could somehow be rechanneled into something and create a larger wetland back there that we could have, ducks and geese, and it could be Ducks Unlimited or whoever, that would certainly be amenable to us, I think. We're just concerned with being overwhelmed with the water
Well-
off the Keystone Central property.
Well, in order to kind of bring this to closure here, because we do have other things on the agenda, what I would suggest is that we have Dr. Martin and Rob follow through with the engineer,
Okay.
and maybe Wade Judon or whoever else they need to talk to, find out, get us some options as to some possible solutions and some cost figures, because I agree. I think this should be a collaborative kind of an approach where all the entities share the cost in it. And, and Rob's right. I mean, if we reopen permits and that kind of thing, it will be very expensive. So we can't really go anywhere till we know what we're looking at in terms of cost.
True, but, collaborative, and you say it's not fair for the overall, we're 6 individual properties.
Right.
If we're talking $1 million and we share a third of it, that's a third of the cost of our condo.
No, I totally understand it. But I think the township has something in this too.
When we were first here, the first meeting, we had,
I know Tough was here.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tough Ryan. Unfortunately, he's passed away since that.
Right.
And I know, I guess that Steve Terselli has taken his place as the president or
Well-
chief operating officer or whatever his title is of
Right.
the township supervisors.
Right.
But, I mean, we're glad to come back to additional meetings or that kind of thing. You just notify us when you have some information and we'll be at whatever meetings are required over the next, until we can get something, at least try to resolve this because we
Well,
think it's a significant problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. I know.
Jeff, can
I lived there. I know.
If
Go
if I
ahead.
can, my personal feeling, and I know this is gonna sound callous, is if we had our permits and all our permits are legal and binding and allows us to have the water flow across. There's nothing legally that we have to do or should do. Now, being a good neighbor, I think we need to help, but I don't think we need to take the ball. I think you guys need to take the ball, because I think if it was me, I'd be going after the developer. It sounds
Yeah.
like that when the developer put your project in, he might have taken shortcuts of some sort. I know you're saying that Conservation District said their permits were accurate and up to date, but still, so are ours. So somewhere, something screwed up. And I don't think it's fair to have the taxpayers of Keystone Central spend a lot of money on this project. I can see us helping you, but I think if you're gonna start with the water originated up in Mill Hall, so Mill Hall Borough, Keystone Central, Bald Eagle Township, and your two homeowners association need to get together. Someone needs to be the driver of the whole project, and I don't think it should be the school district assuming all the cost. Just because we're the biggest doesn't mean we have the most money. If you stick around here for another couple hours, you'll find out we really don't when we have a finance meeting. But I think, we'd be willing to do whatever we can to help as long as it's not costing the district a large sum of money. Like you said, your homeowners doesn't have a lot. We really don't either as far as the district, but I think we have to be a good neighbor and help. But I think you guys should take and drive the bus and just have us on as passengers.
And also, to add to what you just said there, Butch, in all of this discussion, I still don't know where the contractor falls in all of this. Because I agree. I mean, whether their permit was approved or not, and they did everything, something is not right, because I know what you're talking about. I feel for you in your problem because I saw it. I lived there. I know what you're talking about. But it is, I mean, I don't know where they fall into all of the responsibility for this. I think they should hold a little bit of responsibility with this as well. And I haven't heard anything of them being mentioned at all.
Well,
And
I mean, I had not talked to them at this point because I was hoping that this could be resolved. I mean, the water, obviously, where it originates, 100% of it, I believe you that being downhill of Mill Hall Borough up in there, some of it may come from there. But we are ultimately downhill of Keystone Central, and our problem is that the water that is the main problem is coming off of Keystone Central property. Chapel and Eldred, Dan Chapel and Dave Eldred were the two quote developers. They were, I think, a partnership to do this particular thing. And I understand that they've got several rental properties in Mill Hall. And I know
do.
since, when they built them, there was a combination. I purchased a 1 unit. The first unit and my unit were purchased outright as soon as they were built. The other ones were rented for a period of years. Since that, all 6 of them have been sold. So of course, at this point, Chapel and Eldred, they sold all the units. I'm sure they consider they're out of it.
Or even if
then,
they've sold
you
them.
know, I can talk to them. I don't know what kind of liability insurance they have or that kind of thing. But again, we're talking about two local residents, you know, doing a partnership to build this thing. It's not like we're talking, you know, somebody that, you know, is a large home builder or something like that. We're
Yeah, but
talking
just
Well,
about
like we had to
two
have
local
permit-
I know Dan and Dave both,
Yeah.
and they had, and what Butch is gonna say there, they had to have permits just like everybody
Yeah.
else.
right.
And they, whether they're out of it, I mean, as far as owning the properties as developers, I still think that they have some kind of responsibility. I mean, even if it's just a portion of it, rather than have the taxpayers pick up the tab for something that, you know, is not necessarily from a legal standpoint our responsibility, but I think we're willing to help and we're willing to help solve the problem. But if I were you guys, as a homeowners association, I would be hitting all these entities, and if you need to, get something to come out of legal representative to go to Mill Hall Borough, the township, and, you know, all of these entities are involved, and the developer, and make them all, at least if we're gonna do this as a group, which sounds to me like the logical solution to it, I would put some pressure on all those entities.
So, am I understanding this correctly? The homeowners association has never had a meeting with the chapels?
Chapel Net.
No,
It's Dan
that's
Chapel.
correct.
and-
Okay, well, I would feel much more comfortable if the homeowners association spoke to these individuals and then gave a report back to
I think.
Dr.
Me
Martin.
too. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't know, I did not know that. I thought I had the wrong information.
I would
So,
say the responsibility starts with your developer.
right.
If they were a developer, because they're the one that had the stormwater management plan. So something's not right from there, because they had to know, like you said earlier, water flows downhill. It's about the only thing in life I know is guaranteed. And it's coming from uphill from us. They should have had a plan to manage that water when they built those places.
that would be helpful just to, and then give Dr. Martin and, you know, Rob Pasella an update, and then, you know, so we're all on the same page. That'd be lovely.
I would, yeah, I would have,
Has there been conversation with Terselli at this point,
well,
with Baldwin
just,
Township? I mean,
just
you
from
know,
what-
since we had an ongoing thing with
from
Tuffy
what Dr.
Drive,
Martin said there, she
Yeah.
spoke with him
Yeah.
and he's waiting to get some kind of
okay,
dollar figure as to how it would remediate the problem.
Yeah,
So-
again, at the time, after the initial meeting, when we had Tough Ryan here, on the way back, he rode back in the same vehicle with the other gentleman from the other homeowners association and myself. And he indicated that if we could get the water to the cul-de-sac at the end of the Homestead Drive, that there was probably grant money to get it across and to Bald Eagle Creek was his initial assessment. Again, you know, now that he's passed away, we're kind of back to square
Well,
one.
have you discussed that suggestion with Mr. Taselli? at all?
No, I had discussed that with Dr. Martin at the last meeting, told her that, you know, we had that situation, and of course, she was aware of it when she was planning on then talking to Terselli. And I did not talk with Terselli under the assumption, you know, from that last meeting that she was in that line of
I-
communications.
I would suggest you
And
go to the
as
next,
far as the Mill Hall Borough, I know Tom Bossert. I'll talk with him. I believe he's still the mayor, isn't he?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I would go to both of their next meetings, the Borough Council and the Township Supervisors meeting. And
Ken, please come back and let us know.
and
those things.
definitely talk to the
I'm gonna say, I
developers.
think I'd start with township, borough, and definitely talk to Eldred and Chapel.
Mhm.
That's who I think the blame belongs with, or the responsibility belongs with them.
Yeah, I would start with them personally. Hopefully we can get you a solution. I don't know. I don't know what that will be, but we'll find out what it's gonna cost, and then you guys, in the meantime, talk to these other governmental bodies and the developer, and we'll go from there.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
for,
you.
all right, moving on here. Next item on the agenda is the draft of the updated 10-year facility plan. In looking at this, as always, we remind everybody that this is a working document and it's a fluid document. And there's nothing, everything that's on this is always subject to change. What we did with this, when we first did this, I guess it was probably more than a year ago, we did the first list of these. Dr. Martin sat down with all of the building administrators, and I guess Rob, and she asked them to prioritize the needs, facility needs in each of these buildings, which they did, and that's what we see on each of these, for each of these buildings on this plan. And you'll note that quite a number of them have been completed already, and some of them are in process. So in looking through this, personally, I think we've done a really good job of getting a lot of these completed. I think the timeline for all these are certainly reasonable. So I don't know whether I know that we'd like to get this to the full board for approval here soon. So I don't know if there's any questions about anything on it.
I think Dr. Martin was looking at October.
Right,
If all approve the plan, she was looking at October to show the full board.
you're correct. She mentioned that she would like to get it taken to the board at the next voting meeting, which would be in a couple weeks. So
I was just looking through, I'm impressed, I was talking to Rob, that there's so many is either in process
yeah,
or done. I think it's looking really good. I think I counted 31 total, which is a pretty good jump on that list. I think that Property Service Department's done a really good job working on it and whittling it down.
I agree.
Oh,
I think it's pretty amazing, actually, when you think of all of the things that were pretty high priority things that needed to be done for a variety of different reasons. I think we have made some excellent progress here. And I think the things that are in the queue here for this coming school year, 22, 23, 23, 24, I think our biggest worry right now is, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, is the HVAC stuff.
Yeah,
And that's
gonna-
the biggest ticket thing too.
And what, like Jeff alluded to, this is a roadmap. This is basically a working document that I use on a daily basis that we try and follow. Priorities do change based on some emergencies and different things, but we try and maintain this, and it also gives us a scheduling thing for budgeting for Joni whenever we start to get to that end of the year stuff, so that we can plan as effectively as possible. Obviously, I'd like everything to be a priority, but I have to prioritize them out in a fashion that we can obviously get it done and get it paid for. And we're chipping away at this list slowly.
Robin, just one question. The playground fencing at Woodward, I thought we were doing that.
We are.
Doesn't
The
show.
bids were, we approved the bids in the last board meeting. I just was told just today, and I didn't share with Dr. Martin, the final coated fence is about a 4-month lead time, so that's gonna happen just as soon as the ground thaws here in the spring, but it's in progress.
All right. I was gonna say, could we put the end process in that?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, that purchase order, I think
Yeah, I thought we did.
she
that.
cut the purchase order last week, and I got a call on Monday of this week or Friday of last week that said that the vinyl coated, the green is what makes it tough. And we want to match what's over there. I did meet with the zoning officer. I got that permit to apply for, but it's in progress.
Thank you.
All right.
Keep smiling, Chair Jeff,
Yeah.
keep smiling.
What's
Okay.
wrong with the plan?
She put her glasses on, so it's serious.
Well, this is gonna be my summary report, okay? This is not my detailed report.
Thank you.
Give us the
You're
Reader's-
welcome.
We went the Reader's Digest version,
Do they still print that?
the abridged version.
Okay,
Very
Um,
abridged.
I'd like this committee to consider something in your column line, okay? After fund source, I'm sorry, under the column called fund source, I believe that this district is ready to add the word grant or sponsor as where the funding will be coming from, or at least applied.
22 has TBD grants, question mark. It's in
Mhm.
green.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, we
for
have
the
grant- we have
HVAC
grant.
replacement, total replacement boiler, 15, number
That's
one, 15
probably-
million.
Right, and there's
That's
one in there for E-rate, there's one in there for PCCD.
Right, so what, but I'm saying in the fund source column, see how it says capital, 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 capital?
It's in there. Keep going down.
And I think it's 84 and 85 is a PCCD K to 12 safety. They're 2 grants too.
Right, I know, I do see that, but here, let me give you an
Yeah.
example.
So we're
Okay.
using, we have grants in there.
Oh, no, you're right. They've done a terrific job. Okay, I'm not, but thank you. Yes, I thank you. Okay, let's look at row number 4. Bucktail tennis courts repairs resurface. Now, 2 years ago, I gave Susan Blesh, the former business manager, and I believe this committee, copies directly from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for their CCP grant. That included MOU that we could have used, or we can use. The MOU is a memorandum of understanding. And according to our region's director at DCNR, Wes Farringer, the MOU would be between the host municipality and the school district. The host municipality would be the one applying for DCNR C2P2 grant funds. So, and I asked him if tennis courts would be applicable, and the public uses the tennis courts. So yes, it would be applicable. This was 2 years ago, and then of course, everything fell through with COVID. So what I'm saying is for line item number 4, if that word capital could change to grant. And then same with football, parking, outdoor bleachers, line item number 11. Grant, because that's when the understanding that it's open to the public. And if we went with an MOU with a C2P2 grant, that would potentially cover some or most of that cost. And same with line item number 31, tennis courts repair, Central Mountain High School grant, because I'm under the assumption that the public has access to those tennis courts when the school district is not using them. Okay. For line item number 35, the turf replacement rebuild underlay, I'm assuming that's for the high school artificial turf replacement program. Okay, that again, 3 years ago, I was sharing with them NFL, AFL, et cetera, grant options to do that. So again, that one could be called a grant with the understanding that whoever follows us, they would have to start the project at least 3 years in advance. So when I'm looking at number 35, any funds that we've put into that already, we don't know what that amount is, because every year we're putting a certain amount of money away. Whatever that amount is, it would be nice to know. And then with the understanding that in the future, some group will go after grant funding to offset some or all of that cost. Then taking some of those funds and using that as grant match or any emergency project that Rob has, like for his boilers, et cetera. Then if we go to the second page, traffic flow number 43, Central Mountain Middle School, traffic flow improvements, bus loop, parent loop, $3,280,000. I see it every day. The staff are doing an incredible job. There may be a little backlog of 5 to 8 minutes, but it is not a critical need. I would remove number 43 completely, and we just saved $3,280.
3 million to go in.
3 million, yes, 200, thank you, okay. And this is my summary report, please bear with me. Number 46, the FCS room upgrades. To me, that is a priority. And I don't see any reason why Dr. Martin is completing her draft for the naming rights and for advertising policy. There is no reason why we have the intelligence and we have the resources to get a sponsor or advertising rights for that room. And to me, that's a priority. Those students need a high quality, spacious place to learn those skills. So to me, 45 is a priority. And again, that would be under grant or sponsor. Number line 50, Central Mountain Middle School. To me, again, that's a grant. Everyone has voiced their opinion on this, and it is going on year 3. Those cracks are getting so large, we're just gonna get that announcement one day. Sorry, it's too far gone. We gotta demolish it. There's no reason why those cracks can't be temporarily repaired for the winter season before another fall goes. And again, we can get grant money for that through DCNR. We can at least apply.
I gotta stop you a minute.
Yeah.
Sure.
You have me confused with the grant money from DCNR.
Mhm.
You said that we can't apply, it has to be the host municipality?
Yes,
So this should be brought up to them, not to us, shouldn't it?
it has
But
to
you
be,
have to get, I know, like,
Right.
I don't
Please.
think, living in Chapman Township and working with the Chapman Township supervisors, I don't think they've ever envisioned applying for a grant to do anything at Keystone Central, because we're separate entities. I think with them being there, their main priority right now through the DCNR grants, or they're going through them to get ATV trails opened
oh
up.
yeah, doing a great
So
job.
They're doing that, so this is not nothing on the priority list, so I think someone has to go to them and talk to them before we change it on here for grant.
Yeah.
I think we need to leave it where if the grant is talked about with them and they apply for it, then we can change it to grant. But getting them convinced to do it, because those grants are very competitive and there's only limited opportunity for the municipality to do it. And most of the municipalities that I know already have something earmarked they want to use that money for. So,
That's a really good point. No, you're absolutely correct. What, the conversation has to start somewhere. So, I truly feel that the sooner that your concern is brought to this table, that we can invite those municipalities through a Zoom or something. I mean, I think you've just brought up an excellent point. Maybe next facilities committee meeting, we can put on the agenda that we're going to invite them. And we can also invite Wes Faringer from DCNR, and he could give a 15-minute presentation. I could resend all of the paperwork that he emailed me 2 years ago. So what I'm saying is there are challenges, but the rewards, I think, offset any challenge that we would face. And I know we can overcome it if we want to.
Who does all the actual writing of these grants?
That's another conversation that has to take place is obviously the municipality is not going to be writing the grant. So that's another conversation. What I'm trying to say is that it's been 3 years since we started this conversation. We had COVID, et cetera, et cetera. I think now we're in a position where we can seriously take this on and offset some of these costs. The resources are there. It's the will of us. What is our will level?
Well, I like to
No.
see, I think what you're saying has merit, and I think they're good ideas. And it's really helpful, if we can get something, grant money to help pay for some of this stuff. But I think we have to start with a small step instead of running a marathon. And you're talking a marathon right now with all the ones you're talking about. But you know, the ideal one, if you're that concerned about the tennis court at Mill Hall. and I know-
Bundle.
I know a lot of people use it for, I think, pickleball more than tennis. That maybe it'd be a good idea to maybe authorize you to go see Tom Bossert, talk to him about some kind of agreement with the municipality and start working on the grant together.
You know, it might even,
That would be a start.
you're absolutely correct. I love that. I love that. I love that, Butch. Thank you. And
I'm
to be
always
quite
right, you know
honest,
that.
I would still, next month, I would really like, we invite Wes Farringer here. He's the expert. He's been doing this for decades. Let's get him here. Let's talk about that. What are his recommended steps? Because I truly believe that there's possibility if the tennis courts were bundled, that might even be a stronger proposal, but I could be wrong. So could we do that? Maybe
The only
invite him
problem
next
with
month?
bundling of the two municipalities, if they're both in the same municipality, it might be a better idea, but with the separate,
I don't know.
So, yeah.
So thank you, Butch. So if we could do that for next month, that'd be like lovely.
Elizabeth, you look too on some of those ones you just talked about, they're out a couple of years as far as when we have funds that we would even put towards those. But I mean, now would be the time to start talking about, applying for those and those sort of things. But some of those are out a couple of years just because they're not as high a priority as some of the other things that we have on the list as far as heat.
Oh, heat and cooling,
some of
absolutely.
that
But
stuff.
that's what I mean. If this is a direction that the board, with cooperation from the administration goes, you have to plan these grants a year in advance, okay? Because this is what happens. Every year we come across. So anyways, all right, back down to the science classrooms, Central Mountain Middle School. It doesn't have a number. It's between 52 and 53. Science classrooms, grant, STEM. So what I'm not going to finish my list here. So I think my point is fairly clear, is that it's time to start these serious conversations. But then again, if the majority of the board feels that this is not a way they want to go, then we need to have that discussion and then end this conversation, okay? Or if they decide they want to go ahead, then let's seriously go ahead.
I don't
So,
think anybody is opposed to doing grants. My problem is with this is the nuts and bolts of it. Who is going to do it? And so then I know the next words out of your mouth is we're going to hire a grant writer. Well, we've had grant writers in the past and they don't pay for themselves. And, it sounds good on paper. Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But I don't know whether the board's going to support unless you can guarantee that they pay for themselves with these grants. Because we can't ask the administrative staff we have here to be sitting there writing grants.
I would never do that.
And,
You're right.
and I
You're
don't know
absolutely
whether
right, Jeff.
whether I'm in favor of hiring on a grant writer and spend another $100,000 on staffing costs for an individual unless they can bring us in big bucks in grants. And I'm not saying that they couldn't do that, but my past experience with that has not been real positive. I'll just tell you that right now. And that's just where I'm coming from. And what you've been through the grant writer stuff.
Yeah. I was here
and-
when we hired a grant writer before, with the idea of trying to get stuff like you're talking about accomplished, and it wasn't done. So I like your ideas, I really do.
Yeah, I
And
don't have anything against those.
I don't see us changing the word capital to grant as being that big of an issue, because all these projects need completed. If we don't get a grant, it's gonna come out of the capital fund. I think what we should be doing is look at this entire list and see if we can find grant money to pay for whatever we can. If you think the DCNR one would work, fine. Unlike Jeff, I wouldn't be opposed to hiring a grant writer, but I'd be opposed to doing it like we did last time. And I think it was an Act 93 member we had last time. I would be opposed to that. If we're gonna do it, I would have an independent contractor come in and do grants for us and pay them a percentage of what they bring in. I don't think we can afford to put someone on salary and pay them. But if they can bring money in and prove that they're worth the cost, and pay them a percentage of it. I know there's grant writers out there that do that.
In fact, I know of one company right now that the IU is going to be working with. And that's exactly what they do. They don't get they don't get paid anything unless they're successful in bringing in the grant money, and then they get a certain percentage of it. And that would be the direction. If we want to start looking at grants, then that would be some of the direction in my opinion, we would go in, but.
Well, can we
Because
do
I
this?
certainly
Oh,
don't
Mr.
have-
Chair, I want to make one comment to that. If, one of the things I'll caution is when we put over there in that line is capital, that gives Joni something to budget towards. If we get a grant, that's great, but I don't want to have happen like what happened up here under high school HVAC replacement. We had in there as grant, so now that becomes unfunded because that's a need that we have to look for how we're going to fund.
sure.
So we have to be careful how that where it says capital is what she targets to use for her total of the tally
It's for budgeting.
for budgeting
Absolutely.
purposes.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
If
And
we can put something after that, that, hey, we think there's a chance for a grant, maybe a check mark or something,
I love that idea.
Yeah.
something with it.
I think that's a great, you
I would
guys work on
love-
that.
I would love to swap out capital money for grant money.
Yeah, and
But
we,
we do that so we know for the
Yeah.
total of the year, how much do we need to move over from the general fund that the board approves, so I can give you. a
You
kind
guys
of a
figure it out. That's great.
recommendation. Okay.
Thank you.
But if I was you, I would sit down with, I mean, Tom Bosser, you talk to him and.
I feel that the municipality, I can't speak for borough, I'm so sorry. I'm not going to speak for the borough, but first, I would like for the board to get a presentation from Wes Faringer to see if this is even viable before we and see what Wes recommends the steps are, because things might have changed since he spoke about it 3 years ago. So
Okay.
anyways, I gave you some things I would like to see taken off the list.
Taken off the list.
Oh,
All of those things you want taken off the list?
no, not taken off the list.
Yeah,
All
this
right.
got me confused. Taken
All
off
right,
the
let's
list.
let's start with taking one thing off. Number 43, traffic flow improvements, bus loop, $3,280,000. Again, I see the traffic flow every morning. The staff are doing a great job. The buses are not all coming at the same moment. The transportation, they've done a great job here. There might be a little backlog of 4, 5, maybe 6 minutes, but I don't think it's impacting the education of students. We don't need it.
The other thing I thought, right before I came back on the board, you hired a consultant to
You
do a
did.
traffic flow study.
We
Mhm.
did.
And pay them a lot of money, and that's where that number come up from.
You're right.
So, but, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, at that
Just-
point, when we had that, the staff didn't have everything organized the way they have it now. The bus company wasn't as organized. Bottom line,
Well, just because it's
administration,
on
and
here.
everyone took
Yeah.
that situation that was just out of control chaos, and they have segmented it. So now it works very beautifully. And I think we can feel confident that the kids will still be well educated if we take that $3,280,000 off the list. It's not necessary at this point.
Or move it down to,
It's not needed.
Put it down to the bottom of the list.
see that?
Just because it's on here doesn't mean that we necessarily have to do it. Because there are things, like I said, the way I look at this list, it's like when you write an IEP for a student, it is a living document. It can be changed at any point. This is a roadmap. This is a roadmap for Rob to follow and
Mhm.
for us to do. I mean, if we don't need the bus loop,
Yeah.
when we get to that point, shove it down the list. I mean, it just,
I would back it off from number 2 down to right below the hand dryers.
Well, that
But
was
if you-
another one. I
but if
mean,
you look at the
they've
list,
been, you know,
the administrators have met, and that has become, as far as within the building, that's the
And
number
that's
2
their-
priority
their
that the
concern.
administrators would do or have given us. So I think before we would take it off the list, I think I would want to sit down with that group and say, look, we're
oh,
going to
absolutely.
move that
You're
from the
right.
number 2 position on out. And that's a conversation that would have to happen internally, and then we would bring
Well,
that back to the
forward.
And that's a good point,
Yeah,
Rob. I mean,
that's excellent.
these,
Absolutely. Good.
we've asked
Okay,
the
moving right along.
So are we gonna get the tennis courts protected for the winter freeze thaw in Central Mountain Middle School or not?
As far as anything additional, there's nothing budgeted other than out of the routine maintenance money to go over there and do some routine work on it. But there's no capital project to do anything with those
just
tennis
get
courts or any of them.
Just to stabilize it enough so it won't be more destroyed because of freeze thaw.
All right, we beat that one to death. Let's move on here because we
Well,
are
I
running
mean,
out of time.
I was hoping we could get some sort of answer.
Can you look at it?
Yeah, we've looked at it. There's cracks, and it's pushed out on the list as far as a priority. It's not the highest
Put some
priority.
tar or something on it so they don't crack it. Seal it.
We can look and see if there could be.
Thank you very much. That's my summary
Or if you got a skid
request.
steer, just take them out. It's not that hard.
Yeah,
Skid
maybe
steer
put
in a
some hot
dump
pads
truck.
or something. We have,
Jason probably, or Justin probably needs filler someplace, somewhere. We can use it. Liberty curtains, we need to fill that in.
Are we okay then? I know we have a lot to kind of
Hmm.
move forward and think about and look into, but are we okay then as is for the October session?
As far as I'm concerned, we
Moving
are.
it forward.
I mean,
Like,
I'm
you know, I
good.
know we have a list of things to look through after that,
Yep.
but.
We're
okay.
good with it.
All right, moving on here. McClure report on the guaranteed energy savings. Again, I thought Alyssa might be here, but I mean, it's basically looks like we have again saved some money based upon what we actually saved as opposed to what was guaranteed. We've saved about $8,000,
It's
in-
actually twice as much
Yeah.
as what was guaranteed.
right?
Yeah, we saved 15,000 or almost 16.
So we actually came out 8,000 to the good as to what, based upon what they had guaranteed us. So I think that's doing quite well.
And the other thing you got to remember with that, Jeff, is that some of these buildings, we're saving money and we're also air conditioning these buildings where before some of this stuff was based on the fact that we were paying just to heat the buildings. So now we're heating and cooling and still saving money. So this stuff is working.
Especially with,
Why would, I'm looking through page 2, it says Bucktail's in red with parentheses. What's? don't know what that
Because I
means.
don't know if they've done all the calculations of Bucktail because of the time it was finished.
I just didn't know what the red
Yeah.
parentheses, but usually
It's
that
not
means it's a
finished yet.
deficit of some sort.
Can they come next month? Because just for 15 minutes, because I do have some questions.
We can ask them to.
If it's not, because I do have some questions and nothing major, but.
Yep.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, why don't you, I would suggest the easiest thing to do is send
Yeah.
Rob a list of your questions.
Oh,
No, that way he can have them set forward them to them and they can be prepared for the answers. That way, when they come, they're not gonna tell you,
You're right. I have to spend more. You're right. You're right. No, you're right. I just cringe every time I think I have to sit in front of the computer another hour, but it's no problem. You're right.
sometimes it's easier to type than it is to talk.
Oh. No, you're right. But it'll be just brief, not, thank you.
all right. Moving on, Bucktail Locker Room Project. Well, want to give us a update on that, Rob?
We had the original part of that was to have the architects come up, look at the bill or look at it, come up with the design to meet the Title IX and all the different things. Basically, it's matching what's on the other side. We're reusing some of the lockers. So our guys did a lot of the demo work already. We also have the one upstairs. Able to be used right now. In the meantime, we have some workarounds if we find anything with an ADA problem. Dr. Martin and I went back and forth with the contractor trying to drive the cost down as far as we can. And we got it to where we're at, just shy of 250,000 to do the renovation work in
And
there.
it was actually, this is $20,000 less
Yeah,
than the original quote.
yeah,
So
we-
they did.
we
they did-
drove it down over the
yes.
last week and a half, 2 weeks,
Right.
and got to where we want. It pretty much mirrors what's in the boys, other than we are getting rid of the group shower area, and won't have that'll be gone. It'll be 5 individual showers, the bathrooms, epoxy coated floors. We're reusing some of the lockers that aren't used over in the boys' side. Will come over. I think 40 lockers come out of the boys' side and go over to the girls' side. Other than that, it's just not.
Did the design change at all?
I'm just gonna ask you, Liz, remember
We-
Liz just talked about
we-
changing the
we
Because
did
window.
remember
look
that
at-
room and,
We looked at some of that, and if we started trading off the cost, it wasn't a great deal. After I met with them, there wasn't a great deal of cost difference, and I did meet with the principal up there, and he didn't want to have windows in that office area looking out into the hallway because it's obviously windows into the locker room. So we did not do that. We did get the emergency exit like you had wanted, and I don't think it was clearly shown. So if they do go in there, there is a way to the outside as part of the safety plan. So we tried to address as much of that stuff as possible. And
did the coach's room move towards the entrance or is it
Yeah,
still
the-
tucked
the
back?
coach's room is over in the shower area because it's cheaper, because that's where all the drains and all that stuff are. All the stuff that's at the other end, there's a small bathroom there, but the lines weren't big enough to get what they
Well, that
needed
was the
up
thing.
there.
Does the coach need their own facilities?
Well, we do, because we have the Title IX piece that's in the boys. So either we had to tear the boys out or we had to leave it in the girls.
Okay, fair enough.
We elected to leave it. There is times when coaches are there, away coaches and all that, they do not want to be showering with the students if they do shower
No,
after. a
fair
game.
enough. Thank you
And for the
for,
most part, it's not really the coaches as much as it is the PE teachers, use it for an office.
Yeah, it would be like the away football team coach would be the one that would possibly shower or whatever, and they don't want to have to shower.
okay.
So it would then eliminate the one that's over in the boys, which it's not a need to have, it's a nice to have in there. But eliminate it would have been cost. It-
No,
We
you,
just balanced it out, tried to meet everything with Title IX.
No, you've done a
Tried
great
to do the best we can with it.
no, I appreciate it. Excellent job. Excellent job. The only thing I have to add is that once you get the total, and if the policy is ready to go, they have naming rights for the girls' bathroom. And to offset the cost, I'm not kidding. I'm
That's,
not kidding. A sponsor
We're gonna
to
need
have their
locker room.
name on the woman's girls. Again, it's just a matter of a public press release if the policy is ready to go.
I'm not sure where that, I know that you guys have worked on policy on that. I'm not
Yeah, we are.
I'm
The
not
name
up
rights
on
policy.
where you at on,
Right.
but
I mean, even if it's 20,000, 30,000, whatever, you know. I know if I had the money, I would be very proud to have my name on that. But I don't have the money. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need tires.
I need tires.
Oh, well. Alright, that'd be great. We got
Thank
finance
you.
coming up.
Okay. Sounds like that project's in pretty good shape.
yeah.
Do you have a completion date?
I do not. I need to get it awarded. I initially asked, I'm probably gonna be, or January 1. So we'll be into that basketball season. So the girls will have to use the upstairs one. It's been working out all right. I've made arrangements with the principal. If there's anybody that has an ADA issue or anything of that nature that they can't get up there, then we have some other areas they could use. So it's not ideal, but during construction, we have a little bit of leniency because we are doing ADA upgrades in that area. Everything will meet all the turning radiuses, all the stuff to get in and out, barrier
ADA
free. and all
requirements.
that. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
All right. Last item is the Liberty Curtain project update. We have two attachments here. One is the Liberty Curtain project presentation that was made to the public a couple weeks ago on September 11th. We had a public meeting. It was fairly well attended. We had Brett and Dr. Martin did a really nice job presenting, going over this whole presentation, kind of giving everybody a summary of where we've been, how we've got to where we are at this point. This attachment you have here shows you the actual presentation. Several board members were present at that meeting. We got to see the actual video that walks you through the building, which was pretty impressive. And the other the other attachment here, it's the Act 34 booklet that was presented at the board meeting. That will be the guideline for the Act 34 hearing that will be held on the 5th, which I guess is already next week, coming up next Thursday. And this is just a summary of everything we've done to this point, everything that was looked at, everything that was considered. And it's all summarized into this booklet, and it'll be the roadmap for the solicitor, Dr. Martin, and the people running this hearing to go through to present everything to the public that evening. And I guess the public will have a chance to make comment at that time. And Brett, I don't know whether you have anything you want to add?
Just for clarification, just the Act 34 meeting, is that prior to the school board meeting or after the regular school board meeting?
Well,
It says so.
6:15.
I think it's probably going to be prior to the meeting, so based upon the time, so.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I think we're, a lot of people that are interested in coming to that hearing just to, support the project. So.
Where are we with the email site? Have you
The
gotten any
email site,
feedback?
The last time we received an email, I have it opened up here, it was April 24th. We have received only positive and supportive comments for the project up to date. But the last one was April 24th.
And that address has been widely publicized, so
Yes.
if people had some comments, they certainly had plenty of time the last 6 months to make them, so.
And I've been in contact with Crabtree quite a bit this week, just some last, questions here or there to tie up loose ends from standpoint. I think they're getting pretty close to sending bids out, I'm guessing, so.
Well,
Very close.
the target is still November to approve the bid, so that's rapidly approached.
Okay, I'm just gonna be real super quick. You all know I completely support the project. I have ever since I toured it 7 years ago or more. But I am really disappointed that the school board, wasn't an active participant in this like other public schools. And there are some things there that I never had a chance to hear, be a part of the discussion. And I'm
Like
just
what?
gonna be very, very simple here. I'm not saying I'm for or against, but I'm just very confused. And I don't want to make this a discussion item unless you really feel you want to discuss it, because this isn't the right time. I don't believe it's not on the agenda. But I know Rob Pasella and his group has worked so hard to have consistency when he does these buildings. Consistency with flooring, consistency with lighting, consistency with doors, consistency with windows. And I see a deviation from that for this particular building. And right now I don't feel comfortable with that. I feel like
What are the deviations?
flooring, lighting.
What's wrong with them?
If I can, just real quick, back in May, when we met with Crabtree, they met with our faculty. We invited all the school board members.
I
to
never
those
got an
meetings.
invitation.
Yeah. I know Jeff was at one of them.
I never got an invitation, never.
Okay.
But that's okay. I appreciate, I know you're being honest, but no, I was not invited.
We were all emailed the information.
Yeah,
Okay, I don't, if I was emailed, I never saw the email. All right, let's just leave it at that. So, and I also want to feel confident that the walls are thick enough. Are they R50? Are they R60? Are they insulated block? I mean, I want to know that this is a passive, are we utilizing passive heating for the winter time? Are we not? Are there capabilities to put solar panels on the property? I don't know. Again, I'm not looking for answers right here. I just am concerned and highly disappointed with the saying. I know administration and the staff has really put their heart and soul into this. Okay? So I'd like to just leave it at that. Thank you.
I do know the energy system is passed, well, and passive in the manner that it uses a loop through the building that will transfer heat from the interior rooms to exterior rooms. Some of that, which
What?
it's been very effective.
If you wanted all those questions, you have all these questions, why didn't you ask Jeff Straub at the last meeting?
When was this last meeting that we
The
were?
last facilities committee meeting when Jeff Straub sat in the same room with us.
Well, we were told that something is gonna be coming and it was my fault, I guess. I assumed, seriously, I
When-
really
when
did
did-
assume that he
when
was
did
gonna
they
sit
say
down
something
with the
was
school
coming?
board and administration. We were gonna have a discussion. So,
I think we have discussed.
We
we've
did.
Talked about Keller's, we've talked about.
no, I've never been in those
Rooms.
discussions. Please, I don't want to rehash and I don't want to get anyone's blood pressure up. I just know that,
I know that these timelines have been in place, and when we gave the first public meeting back in April, on April 11th, when Jackie and I were at Liberty Curtain, we gave the timelines on when all these things would take place. We
Yes.
invited everybody we possibly could to those May meetings to design the interior structures of the buildings. And then when we heard Jeff just last month, down in the other room when we had the meeting with him, a lot of these questions didn't come up. So that's why,
I
I'm
just-
sorry you feel like you weren't a part of the process, but
it wasn't, no, it's not just me. I don't remember the board sitting down with the designer and the architect and, the key people in administration as a group. I don't remember that ever being done. And
don't think the
I
board has, but
assumed, but
Yeah.
please, hon,
This
please.
committee has.
Yeah.
No, I don't, okay. When I went to that meeting, I saw these materials laid out on the table. That was the first time I'd ever seen them. And that, it is what it is. The majority of the board members wanted to manage this that way and govern that way. I am just giving my own personal viewpoint at this time, and I just am disappointed, but it is what it is, and I will move forward. Just say thank you.
Well, you can
I will
always
just
vote
add
against
that
it.
I did also share those materials and sent the information to the board, all board members, not just the members who were at the meetings. It was there when you were in person, Elizabeth, and you chose not to look at it. I will say that it's really not the board members' role in any project that I've been in to get that deeply involved and pick colors. That's the role of the administration, and we chose to involve the staff heavily. And so I'll defend the process that we used. I also would like to say that I've asked you repeatedly when you said you have questions that you could send them to me, you could do anything, and you've refused to do that. So I'll offer that one more time. If you would like to send me your questions, you told me it needed to be done at a public meeting. Now you're at a public meeting and we don't have the questions. So again, I would just like to say, if you have questions for me, I'd be more than happy for you to email them to me. I'll pass them on to the architect, whatever we need to do if you have questions. I've offered that for almost a year now, so.
Anything else about the Liberty Curtain project before we adjourn?
About it.
Anything else for the good of the order here in the committee? Any other items that would like to be discussed in our last 5 minutes here?
Thank you all, everyone.
Okay, hearing none. I will adjourn.
Hey, we got 5 minutes. We did good.
I thought it starts at 3:30.
3 o'clock.
3.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay.